The sky over Narellen 3 was never truly dark. Even in the deepest part of night, the twin moons kept the land bathed in silver light. Stars shimmered like tiny fires above the glassy oceans. For centuries, the Narellians lived in peace. People, farmers, engineers, dreamers. They had no army, no weapons of war. They traded crystals and tech designs with passing ships and watched the stars without fear. Until one day, the stars answered back. In fire, the first sign came as a shadow of fleet, sharp-hedged and red-lit, descended from orbit like a curse. The invaders didn't speak. They didn't demand. They attacked. Cities burned, satellites exploded, and people scattered like dry leaves in the wind. They were called the Blood Claws, pirates under the banner of Varkas the Red, a warlord known across the Outer Rim for leaving nothing alive. The Narellians tried to run, but escape ships were shot down mid-air. Families huddled in caves and bunkers, hiding beneath mountains, and under the sea, praying for a miracle. And in their final moments of desperation, the planet's last functioning transmitter sent one message, one broken, fading cry into the dark. To any who hear this, we are under attack. There's no weapons, no defenses. Please, help us. The signal was weak, damaged. Most satellites ignored it. Concord networks, bloated with bureaucracy, flagged it as low priority. The council never even saw it. But in a quiet corner of space, far from politics and protocol, the signal reached a forgotten station floating among the debris of old Earth wars. A Terran listening post, run mostly by AI, logged it, decoded it, analyzed the voice trembling behind static. The system paused for just 2 seconds, and then the red alert went out. Earth had heard what followed wasn't chaos. It was precision. Single name was pulled from deep files. Varkas the Red, known threat. Prior sightings in fringe sectors. Confirmed atrocities. The Terran High Command didn't waste time with votes or meetings. It didn't ask who Narellen 3 belonged to. It didn't care if the Council considered it protected. One thing mattered. A civilian world had called for help. And Earth did not ignore cries anymore. The first ship to leave Sol wasn't large. It was a recon-class vessel, fast and cloaked. It launched in silence. No announcement, no broadcast. Its mission: verify the distress, confirm the threat, and prepare the battlefield. The scout ship entered Narellen's orbit under blackout. What it found confirmed the worst. Multiple heat signatures across the planet, mass graves visible from space, 3 pirate ships circling above like carrion. Varkas had seen it. A pirate destroyer caught the Terran scout mid-jump. The last image it sent was a red flare from behind a missile, locking on, and then silence. The Terran response was not rage, it was a fleet. 72 hours after the signal was received, Earth's armada entered Narellen space. They didn't arrive in a line. They arrived above, dropping from FTL like thunder cracks. Massive black warships, shaped like blades and stars, bristled with weapons, no broadcast, no demands, no mercy. The pirate fleet scrambled to respond, but they were outmatched before they fired a shot. Terran targeting systems locked in milliseconds. Kinetic rounds punched through hulls, and bursts shattered controls. The flagship of Varkas exploded so quickly it didn't even leave wreckage. It's just atoms and a memory. But it wasn't just orbit that burned. Echo Division deployed. Planet-side black-armored soldiers trained to fight in silence. They moved through forests and ruins, eliminating pirate strongholds without warning. No one saw them coming. No one heard them leave. Entire units disappeared in seconds. Their bodies found days later with clean shots to the skull if they were found at all. Civilians began emerging from hiding. They looked up and saw Terran banners placed on rooftops, letting them know it was safe. Medical bots arrived. Ration packs were dropped. The people were not forgotten. But it wasn't the violence that shocked the galaxy, it was the speed. In just one day, Earth had done what the Concord failed to do in months. End a threat and save a world. Word spread, not by news, but by survivors. Narellian refugees sent messages to friends on other planets. They told them Earth came without asking for anything. They didn't demand resources, didn't plant flags. They just helped. A child from the southern isles of Narellen, her hair scorched by fire, was recorded saying something that would echo across thousands of systems. The stars didn't forget us. Earth came. Meanwhile, the Concord Council sat in silence, unsure how to respond. Earth had violated no law, but they had also ignored every channel of galactic diplomacy. Some called it interference. Others called it hope. On political channels, debates raged. Is this the return of Terran imperialism? Or something new? Something honest? But on the edges of space, no one cared for politics. Colonies with broken defenses. Mining worlds abandoned by the Council. Outposts under pirate rule. They all watched what happened on Nirelon and wondered, what if we called? Would Earth hear us too? And if they did, would they send a single ship or a fleet built for annihilation? The answer, no one knew yet. But in deep space, the Terran flagship, ISV Obsidian, waited in silence, its engines humming low, scanning the void. It wasn't hunting for war, it was listening, because once, long ago, Earth ignored the pleas of the weak. Not anymore. Now, even the smallest voice could summon a storm. The silence before the storm felt almost sacred. Above the charred world of Nirelon 3, stars shimmered like ice chips caught in black water, uncaring and distant. And yet amid those stars, something stirred a darkness so vast it swallowed. Light itself? Earth's fleet had arrived, not with fanfare, not with glory, but with a cold precision that made even hardened smugglers and pirate captains shiver in fear. The Nirelians, broken and hiding, watched the skies above them change from blood red to pitch black as the Terran Armada blotted out the heavens. The first pirate ship to react was the Varkus Claw, a refitted cargo vessel turned gunship. It launched missiles blindly toward the lead Terran destroyer, screaming over open coms, "We are the Blood Claws. You will kneel." But the Terran fleet did not kneel. It did not speak. It simply moved in one motion. The destroyer TSV Resolution shifted 30 degrees to starboard, evading every incoming warhead without breaking formation. Then, with the blink of a sensor pulse, it answered. A single railgun slug, pure tungsten, wrapped in an electromagnetic field, left the barrel at hypersonic speed, punched through the Claw's bridge, engines, and reactor in under 3 seconds. The ship shattered in silence, fragments glowing orange as they tumbled into the planets. Gravity. The pirates had never seen weapons like these. Terran warships didn't roar. They didn't stray for scatter fire. They selected targets and deleted them. No unnecessary destruction, no warnings. Just clean surgical strikes that felt less like war and more like judgment. On the ground, huddled. In burnt-out tunnels, the Nirelians heard the sound of distant thunder, low and steady. Not explosions, not battle cries. Just the deep, rhythmic pounding of railguns firing from orbit. A girl named Kayla, no older than 9, pressed her ear to the rock and whispered, "They're here. The fire from the sky is not for us." Was right above. The Terran flagship ISV Obsidian remained still, its sleek obsidian-colored hull, reflecting the flames below. It was the eye of the storm, commanding a battle that felt more like a cleansing. Varkus the Red had built his fleet, from stolen ships, twisted metal, and pain. Earth's fleet was different. Clean, cold, built for one. Reason, annihilation of threats to the innocent. The pirates fought back with desperation. Dozens of smaller ships darted through clouds of debris, hoping to find a weakness, a gap, a blind spot. But there were none. Terran targeting A is worked together like a single mind. One pirate vessel managed to breach within 500 kilometers of the main Terran cruiser line. For a second it looked like it would survive the gauntlet. Then it split apart, cleanly sliced by a beam of light so bright it left scars in the eyes of anyone who saw it. The Terrans called it the Sun Lance, a weapon designed not just to destroy, but to remind. Inside the Obsidian, Commander Silas Ward stood on the bridge, his face calm. No orders shouted, no panic. Just the steady observation of an execution unfolding exactly as planned. He leaned forward, studying the final pirate dreadnought as it tried to flee. "Don't kill it," he said. The crew glanced at each other. Cripple. It let the galaxy see what running from justice looks like. And so, the Black Veil, the last remaining symbol of Varka's terror, was pierced, not destroyed. Its engines were reduced to molten scrap, its comms tower shattered. It drifted, powerless, into Nerelin's orbit, broadcasting one last signal, static, and screams. The Council would later demand an explanation. It would say Earth had no authority to engage, that the system was under protection, that the pirates were exaggerated threats. But the galaxy had seen it all now. From colony feeds, from passing traders, from hacked Council satellites, the people had watched. Earth's fleet rained fire upon monsters, and they weren't afraid. They were in awe for decades. Humans had stayed quiet, watching, building, listening. Their Deathworld reputation made them targets of fear and suspicion, but now that fear was reshaping into something else. Respect. Earth did not seek conquest. It sought justice. On the surface of Nerelin, Echo Division teams spread out. Black-armored and silent, they moved like shadows, locating survivors, clearing bunkers, scanning for life signs. One soldier, known only as Rook 7, found a cluster of civilians trapped in a half-collapsed subway system, lifted the debris with a servo-assist frame, and pulled them out one by one. A mother holding her child asked, voice shaking, "Why did you come?" I send some so and send 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 as of send as of send as sm send 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 and send 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 and send 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 and send 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 ls and send send was send 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 away not anymore. Later that day, as the fires died and the dead were counted, Earth transmitted a single message to open space. It wasn't addressed to the Council, or to the pirates, or to any political body. It was sent to everyone. One signal, that's all it takes. One call, one voice. We are not gods. We are not rulers. We are human. And we have built a fleet. Not for empire, but for answers. If you cry out, we will hear. And if your enemy doesn't flee, we will burn them from the stars. Across fringe systems, refugees wept. On high-class core worlds, the powerful grew afraid and in secret. Thousands of voices began whispering into old radios, hidden terminals, and warn comes. Earth, if you can hear me. Because now the galaxy knew. One signal was all it took, and the fire from Earth was already in the sky. Ash fell like gray snow across the hills of Neuroland 3. The fires were dying. But the smoke still painted the sky in long black streaks. Craters marked where pirate command stations had once stood. Half-melted ships leaned against the landscape, like broken bones. The air, once sweet with ocean winds, now carried the scent of burned metal and scorched stone. But beneath that ruin, there was something else to life. For the first time in weeks, the people were stepping out of hiding. They blinked up at the sky, unsure whether to trust what they saw. The Terran fleet still hovered silently in orbit, its massive hulls unmoving, casting shadows like gods watching from above. No one had seen ships like that before. No insignias, no colorful flags, just black metal, red lights, and names carved in languages most couldn't read. Obsidian, Judicator. Vengeance, mercy, unspoken. It was like something from ancient stories, death ships sent not to conquer, but to punish. Down below, Terran soldiers worked without pause. Echo Division moved through the shattered cities, not with rifles raised, but with scanners and medical gear. Civilians were treated, scanned for radiation, handed ration packs, and filtration masks. In some villages, Terran engineers had already started patching broken infrastructure, sealing power lines, restoring water flow. But they spoke little. They didn't tell stories. They didn't accept praise. They only acted, quiet, cold, and fast, like ghosts with purpose. In the remains of the southern port, a young boy named Tiller found a strange black rectangle in the rubble. It hummed softly, glowing with blue lines. When he pressed it, a hologram flickered to life, showing a map of the entire region. Flashing dots marked rescue zones, aid drops, medivac points. The boy stared, then ran to show the others. Within hours, hundreds of survivors began following the glowing trails left behind by Earth soldiers. Too many, it felt like following stars in the capital ruins. The Neurelian leader Area Valent stood among the crushed towers of the Planetary Council Hall. Her skin was blistered from heat. Her voice was hoarse, but her eyes burned with something. Fierce, she had watched her people die. She'd seen her requests ignored by the Galactic Concord again and again. And now she watched as humans asterisk, not her allies, not her neighbors, but strangers from a violent blue world asterisk rebuilt her city. One slab of concrete at a time. When she was brought aboard the Obsidian, her first words to Commander Silas Ward were not thanks, they were a question. Why now? Silas didn't answer right away. He stood by the observation window, looking down at the planet spinning slowly beneath them. There was a time, he said finally, when Earth let the galaxy burn. We watched. We debated. We stayed behind walls. He turned to her, his face cold and weathered. That time is over. She stared at him, confused. Then why not speak to the council? Why not wait for authorization? Because they waited too long, Silas said. He called for help, but that was authorization. In that moment, Area realized something terrifying and beautiful. Earth wasn't asking permission anymore. Elsewhere in the galaxy, word of Nerelin's salvation spread like wildfire. Videos leaked. Footage of precision strikes from orbit, of pirates vaporized mid-sentence, of black-armored humans carrying children out of burning buildings. The council tried to shut it down. They issued statements, denounced Earth's rogue action, called it militarized charity. But the people saw something else. They saw a force that didn't lie, didn't delay, didn't leave them behind. Across mining colonies and fringe settlements, whispers rose. Earth came for Nerelin. Maybe they'll come for us. Some began to modify old antennas, tuning into deep frequencies, repeating simple phrases. This is Station Kiranine. Requesting observation from Terran Echo Division. This is Corvin. Outpost hostile. Takeover risk. Broadcasting coordinates. If Earth hears us, we welcome you. And somewhere, deep in Terran-controlled space, AI signal relays lit up with hundreds of messages, not cries for war, but calls for hope. Back on Nerelin, as the ashes settled and food caches were restocked, a strange moment of peace returned. Children played in the streets. Lights flickered back on. Celebration was planned, not one of joy, but of survival. Sferia gave a speech beneath a rebuilt Cums tower. We were forgotten, she said, until one planet-long silent herd. Us. The galaxy talks of Earth's power. I've seen their real weapon. It's not their ships. It's not their guns. It's that they listen, and they act. Above, in orbit, a Terran ship began to move. Not to attack. It's not to remain. To leave. The Obsidian transmitted a simple signal to Nerelin. Reconstruction. Protocols complete. Local defense grid activated. No further threats detected. Status resolved. And then the fleet jumped to Ligadi, gone in a flash, like thunder without lightning. No tribute taken, no government installed, just silence, and a planet reborn from ruin. But before the last ship vanished, a single drop pod landed near the capital. Inside was a plaque, made of steel darker than night. Its words were etched in every major galactic language. It said, "If you fear the darkness, call us. We remember what it was like to be alone. One signal, one fleet, one promise. Never again. The people of Narellen placed the plaque on the highest hill so it could be seen from anywhere in the capital. Children came to touch it. Pilgrims took pictures. The story spread, and in places still living in shadows. The oppressed began to whisper a name they once feared. Earth, not as a warning, but as a hope. Long before the first Terran warship crossed into alien skies, before names like Obsidian and Adjudicator became whispered legends, before pirates trembled at the thought of black holes in orbit, Earth was silent. Not weak, but watching, waiting, building. For centuries after first contact, humanity remained cautious. The Galactic Concord labeled Earth a death world, its gravity too strong, its ecosystems too hostile, its species too aggressive. The label came with warnings, with distance, with fear. Earth was avoided, not attacked, not welcomed, just left alone. And in that solitude, Earth did not reach outward. It looked inward. It remembered. The history of Earth was soaked in. Fire, wars that scarred continents, bombs that could tear holes in the sky, civilizations rising and falling like waves. Humanity had tasted extinction not once, but many times. When the stars finally opened, when the universe first spoke, back, Earth did not rush in. It studied, it learned, and it remembered something terrible. There were cries in the dark once, and no one had answered. That was the beginning of what would become the Promethean Doctrine, a code, written in silence, shared only in the darkest corners of military command, and etched into the soul of every officer trained on the black moon of Luna Vigil. The doctrine was simple. Never again will the cry of the weak go unanswered. The Terran fleet was not built to conquer. It was not built for politics, or power, or territory. It was built for response, for precision, for retribution. And so it grew in shadows, massive. Warships built in asteroid belts. Deep space forges crafting weapons the galaxy thought impossible. AI cores trained on ancient wars and faster-than-light simulations. While the rest of the galaxy debated, Earth prepared, and then came Narellen. That broken signal, that dying voice, that one message that brought fire back to the stars. Now, the universe began to ask, why did Earth really come? The Council feared. The answer? Core world citizens made theories. The truth was quieter than anyone expected. Back on Earth, deep inside the Atlas Vault, under the Andes Mountains, Admiral Riker Dane stood before a wall of black, sealed with the names of the lost. Entire colonies that had cried out for help in the past. And Earth at the time had been too slow, too uncertain, to bound by fear. He had vowed when he was young that the stars would never be allowed to forget again. The fleet was his answer. It's built not just with metal and fuel, but with guilt. With rage, with purpose. Years ago, when the Concorde watched a pirate fleet burn through the colony of Ventran 7, Earth had asked permission to intervene. It took 6 weeks to get a reply. By then, everyone was dead. Their signal had come in clear, but no one came. Riker never forgot the last message from Ventran to Earth. If anyone hears us, we're not soldiers. We're not important. No. But we're alive. Please, please. Then silence. From that moment forward, stopped asking and started building. Now, on the galactic stage, Earth was no longer a quiet planet. It was a symbol of action, of fear, of hope. Pirate fleets burned in their hideouts, unsure when the Terran fleet would find them. Oppressed colonies recorded strange lights in their skies, black ships cloaked and watching, just in case. The council grew restless. In secret meetings, ambassadors demanded answers. Why Earth? They asked. Why intervene? Why now? But they already knew the answer, because Earth remembered what it meant to be afraid, and alone, and dying in the dark, and it swore never again. On the edge of the galaxy, a colony called Draveri II sent a message. Its people were under siege from mercenaries hired by their own trade guild. They had no fleet, no weapons, only sand and silence. No one responded. No one but Earth. Within 48 hours, the TSV Vow unbroken entered orbit. No shots fired, no broadcasts. The mercenaries fled before the first railgun even charged. They had seen what happened to Varkas. The people of Dravari sent back a simple reply. We are alive because Earth remembered us. The phrase began appearing across colonies, etched into walls, carved into ships, printed on refugee tents. Earth remembers. A whisper in every shadowed corner of the galaxy. But Earth never replied. With pride, never declared victory. The fleet came, acted, and vanished like judgment on wings of steel. Back on Narellen, weeks after the fleet had left, the cities were rebuilding. Crops returned. Schools reopened. At night, children looked to the stars not in fear, but in wonder, and when their elders told them stories, they didn't speak of pirates or the council. They spoke of the day the sky turned black. And Earth came. They spoke of Deathworlders not as monsters, but as guardians. Born from fire, built for war, but carrying a single burning truth, one signal, one fleet, one promise. The Galactic Concord was not built for speed. Was built for diplomacy, for regulation, for order that moved like old stone through deep water. Its halls were carved from marble mined on moons long dead, its chambers filled with delegates who lived centuries and spoke in terms of decades. In times of peace, it was a monument. In times of war, it was a mirror slow, reflective, often useless. But when word of Earth's fleet reached the high chambers, something broke through that still air. Panic. It wasn't just the destruction of the pirate fleet over Nirelon. It wasn't the precision strikes or the black-armored echo units that moved like living silence. It wasn't even the rumors of the Sunlance that had vaporized a battleship in one strike. It was the message that followed. We hear you. We will come. We remember. Those words had ignited something the Council feared more than war. Hope among the forgotten. Colonies that had long accepted abandonment were now broadcasting emergency signals not to the Council, but directly into deep space bands known to Earth. Mining settlements that once bribed mercenaries for safety began flying. Makeshift banners painted with Earth's old flag. Fringe worlds stopped paying protection fees to local guilds. Some even began training militias, hoping to earn Earth's attention. The Council's control was not held by force, it was held by fear of isolation. And now, Earth had shattered. That isolation with one act of fury, the result was chaos. Inside, the spire of Accord on Unity Prime, the central chamber shook with voices ambassadors of 100 worlds, shouting over each other. Some demanded sanctions. Others proposed sending a diplomatic fleet to confront Earth. Some even whispered war. But they all ignored one terrifying truth. Earth wasn't claiming territory, it wasn't sending ambassadors, it wasn't responding to hails. Earth was simply listening to the signals no one else would answer and acting. They're disrupting balance, shouted High Speaker Joran of Velker. They're destabilizing neutral space. They're showing the people what protection looks like, barked Counselor Mira of Gerald Prime. We can't compete with that. Earth has built something far worse than weapons, another said quietly. They've built belief. That was the truth no one wanted to say aloud. Earth had become more than a power. It had become a symbol. To the downtrodden, it meant salvation. To the corrupt, it meant exposure. To the powerful, it meant losing control. But they had no leverage. Earth had no trade routes to sanction, no political alliances to threaten, no debt to call in. Earth stood alone, by choice, and still their ships moved like ghosts through the stars, on a backwater moon named Satara 6, where slavers had ruled for decades. The sound of thunder split the sky. A single Terran gunship no larger than a freighter dropped from orbit. No demands. No ultimatums. It landed in silence. Echo Division stepped out. 12 soldiers against hundreds of armed SLAs. It was over in 90 seconds. The slaves didn't even realize. They were free until the Echo Medic walked into their cage, knelt, and offered water. The message spread faster than fire. Echo doesn't speak. Echo acts, the council tried to explain. That these missions were illegal, unauthorized, dangerous, but the colonies didn't care. They had seen what Terran justice looked like, and it was fast. Inside the deepest archives of the Spire, the Council's intelligence corps began collecting reports. They found a chilling pattern. Earth had maps of every pirate, route in the Outer Ring. Earth had surveillance of guild corruption going back 10 years. Earth had been watching everything, and now it was choosing where to strike, not randomly, not politically, morally. Earth has become judge and executioner, the corps director whispered. They will not stop. But what terrified them more was this. There were no signs of conquest. Earth wasn't building bases, wasn't installing governors. They didn't even stay. They came. They destroyed evil and left. That made them harder to predict, harder to fight, harder to hate. In an emergency session, the Council finally issued its most aggressive broadcast in 100 years. To the planet Earth and all associated fleets, cease unauthorized intervention. Return to Council channels, submit to diplomatic review, or be declared rogue. The message echoed through every corner of the galaxy. Earth never responded instead. 2 days later, a small agricultural colony called Farvan III sent a call. Pirates were inbound. The Council delayed. Earth didn't. The TSV Blade of Mercy dropped from FTL above the colony. 4 pirate ships destroyed, 0 civilian casualties. Farmers wept as food pods were dropped from orbit. The final signal left by the Terran fleet was this, we heard. Back on Earth, deep within Command Sector 0, Admiral Riker Dane read the Council's threat in silence. Round him, screens glowed with signals from across the galaxy. Red for danger, green for safe, yellow for suspected calls of distress. The green zones were spreading. For the first time in galactic history, systems once ruled by terror were turning stableland. Earth had done it without forming a single empire. Riker turned to his aide. Prepare Fleet Vector 9. Another colony? No, he said. The Council's about to make a mistake. He stood, cloak heavy across his shoulders. Let the galaxy watch. Because now, Earth didn't just bring war, it brought accountability. The Council had waited long enough. For weeks, they debated Earth's actions in backroom meetings filled with panic and pride. Every time Earth responded to another distress signal, it made the Concord look slower, weaker, obsolete. Earth wasn't trying to replace the system, they were proving it was never enough. And that was more dangerous than warships or weapons. Earth made the Council look irrelevant, so when the vote was cast unanimously behind closed doors, they sent not a warning, they sent a fleet. It was called Operation Chainlight. 28 ships, 5 species, 2 dreadnoughts, all bearing the seal of the Galactic Concord. Their mission was simple. Intercept the Terran battlecruiser Vow Unbroken, en route to a small, unknown colony in the Krell Expanse. The humans had received a distress signal from a mining camp on Dinara 5. Pirates had been attacking for months. The Council had ignored the call, claiming Dinara 5 was a non-registered settlement. Earth didn't care. The Vow Unbroken jumped anyway, and when it did, the Council's fleet waited just beyond Dinari's orbit. Weapons armed, communications locked, shields raised. The Council Admiral Avari named Crest Talsent a direct hail. Terran vessel. You are in violation of Concord Protocol. You will stand down and submit for inspection, or you will be fired upon. On the bridge of the Vow Unbroken, Commander Ilana Rhodes stood in silence. Her crew said nothing. Their uniforms bore no ranks. It's just one patch over their hearts. A black sunburst on Gratha, mark of the unspoken doctrine. She tapped her console and replied, voice calm, cold, human. We received a call for help. Our mission is aid and rescue. On us, you fire on a medical ship entering a war zone. Crestal responded with force. Within seconds, Council fleet opened fire. The Vow Unbroken didn't run. It didn't fire back. Instead, it held position, activated its defense, grid and broadcast everything live across open galactic channels. Footage went viral in minutes. One ship, shielding itself, refusing to fire. 28 ships. Attacking asunder the Council's banner, the galaxy watched as Terran civilians on board were evacuated mid-battle to drop pods that slipped toward Denara-5. The ship held, its armor blistered, lights failed. But it held until the Terran second fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 70-4 ships. Silent. No warning. Black steel. Red lights. They formed a wall between the Council fleet and the crippled. Vow unbroken. Not a single Terran ship fired. They didn't need to. The message was clear. You shoot one Terran ship, you answer to all of us. Admiral Crest Hall panicked. His fleet withdrew. The galaxy shook. The Concorde tried to spin the incident. They said the Terrans provoked the attack. They said Earth was endangering peace. But the live feed had already gone too far. Colonies everywhere had watched in real time. They saw Earth shielding civilians while the Council opened fire. Suddenly, neutral systems began declaring allegiance not to Earth, but to the idea of Earth. They adopted Earth's doctrine of direct response. Militias reorganized into defense corps. Signals were sent to the Terran fleet offering shared logistics, supplies, protection corridors. Even within the Council's core worlds, protests broke out. Who answers the cry for help? We are not slaves to slow politics. Let Earth act, we will follow. In a secret meeting on Luna Vigil, Riker Dane spoke to his command circle. We didn't fire a single shot, he said, but they fired on a ship delivering water and medicine. He paused. Now the galaxy knows who the monsters are. Elsewhere, Denara 5 had been saved. Echo Division neutralized the pirates, rebuilt the Cum Tower, and left as always. No flag was raised, no law was imposed. Just a plaque left behind, you asked. We came. We did not come to rule, only to remember what it means to care. But something had changed. For the first time. Earth wasn't just fighting pirates. It was at odds with the very body that claimed to speak for civilization. The Council had drawn blood, and now Earth was watching. Harder, colder, more prepared than ever. Back in the Concorde Spire, counselors panicked. One whispered what many feared. We've created something we can't stop. We didn't just provoke them, we proved their point. It began with one colony. Just one. A small mining outpost on the rim called Leora's Cradle. Forgotten by most nav charts, ignored by Council trade lanes, and until recently ravaged by raiders. After the Vow Unbroken incident, Leora's citizens voted unanimously to place a signal buoy at the edge of their system. Not just any signal. It broadcast a message in Terran code. Earth remembers. This system stands with them. They didn't ask for protection. They didn't ask for supplies. They simply chose. And with that one signal, the cracks in the galaxy's foundation widened into fault lines. Within days, 2 more colonies followed. Then 6, and 40-3. Some were tired of waiting years for Council hearings about border disputes. Others had been attacked and abandoned one time too many, and a few quiet. Desperate, just wanted to believe in something that acted. By the end of the week, nearly 100 systems, moons, and freeholds across the outer spiral declared neutrality from the Concorde Incent. Encrypted alliance pings to Earth. Not formal treaties, just a whisper across space. We see you. We trust you. The Council was shaken, but still they tried. To suppress the shift, they issued sanctions. They restricted trade. They banned travel to Earth-line systems. But it was too late. The Terran doctrine had never been about conquest. It was about clarity. And that clarity burned brighter now than any fleet in the city of Galith Prime. On a core world known for its loyalty to the Council, a massive protest broke out. Citizens demanded the release of unfiltered battle footage from Denara 5. When the media refused, a hacker group leaked the entire archive. The footage showed Terran soldiers shielding alien children from crossfire. It showed the Vow unbroken, refusing to retaliate. It showed the Council's warships opening fire first. Millions watched. Billions followed. And suddenly, public opinion shifted like gravity. Artists painted murals of black Terran ships. Songs were written in alien tongues. titled things like The Fire That Cared and Steel That Spoke. With silence, the Terrans didn't respond. They didn't advertise. They didn't ask for loyalty. But that's why they got it, inside Earth's command structure. Debate stirred. Some believed they should formalize alliances, draft a new treaty, establish a replacement for the Council, but Admiral Riker Dane refused. No flags, no promises, no empire, he said. We are a fleet of memory, not rulers. If we become what we fought, we've already lost. So Earth did nothing, and their silence echoed louder than any speech, because while the Council gave orders, Earth gave hope, on a moon called Telleran 5. Local warlords demanded tribute from a farming colony. The colony refused. They activated their beacon. Within an hour, a single Terran corvette arrived, its hull black, lights dim, weapons quiet. The warlords laughed until the ship activated its orbital display. Not weapons, just footage. A holographic replay of what had happened to the warlords. A VAR, cost to the pirates of Niar Alun, to the slavers of Seta-6. By the time the recording ended, the warlords surrendered. The Terran ship never even powered. Single gun. Fear had become currency. But it wasn't just fear, it was trust. The Terran's fleet never stayed longer than needed. They never looted. They never took tribute. They helped, and then they left. And every time they did, another system said, "We are not part of Earth, but we believe in what they do." Inside the Council's war room, the panic finally gave way to resentment. Earth has built a religion, growled High Speaker Varn, one of steel, blood, and silence. We either end them more, they end us. But no one knew how to fight. Ghost Earth never made the first move. They waited, and when evil rose, they responded fast. Fast, merciless. And then, they were gone. The Council considered war, but against whom? No one would rally to their flag, and Earth. Earth didn't even raise one. In the shadows of the spire, one counselor asked, "What do we call them now?" Another replied, "They call themselves nothing. But the galaxy has a name for them. Deathworlders. Guardians from the Hell World." And everyone knew what that meant. Not monsters, not killers, but the ones you call when no one else will come. So now, the galaxy teetered on one side. A council grown soft, slow, bound in laws written in forgotten ink. On the other, a fleet forged. In silence, with no throne, no chrononly action, worlds were choosing. Quietly, firmly, not out of hate, but out of hunger, for something real. The signal came from beyond the Orion Veil. A dead zone. No charts, no relays, no known life. Just cold space and forgotten wreckage from wars. So ancient, even the Council archives had lost their names. Ships didn't go there, scouts that ventured. Close never returned. Rumors called it cursed, haunted. A graveyard of lost empires. But then the cry came, short, broken, terrified. "Please, gods, help us. They're inside the walls, no stars. Just fire. They're inside." It lasted 12 seconds before the signal cut off in static and blood-like distortion. Most assumed it was an old transmission echoing through subspace, a ghost from a war centuries gone. But Earth listened differently. Earth had built AI capable of tracking resonance origin through gravitational echo trails. They triangulated the message within minutes. It was current. It was real. It wasn't a distress call from a pirate raid or a failing colony. It was something worse, a signal from another galaxy, inside Command Vault Sigma. Admiral Riker Dane stood over the holomap, silent. The veil shimmered in red across the starscape. Behind it, no probes had ever returned. Yet this voice, this cry, it was raw. It was not strategic. It was the sound of life begging not to be erased. He tapped the console. "How far out?" 74 light-years from the edge of the nearest Terran scout patrol, replied the AI. Estimated 8 days. At fleet speed. Faster for Echo. Riker closed his eyes. A decision pressed on him not just as a commander, but as the final guardian of a promise Earth had carved into the stars. We will answer, no matter how far, no matter how dark, he issued. The order. Activate Protocol Exodus. Every Terran ship, every scout, every carrier, every orbital gunplate froze for 0.8 seconds as the signal reached them. Then they moved. Not toward Earth, not toward a battlefield. Toward the Veil. Echo divisions left their silent posts. Battle cruisers shifted from patrol to formation. Medical transports loaded rations. Armor, field AI, and mobile clinics. It was not just a fleet anymore. It was an exodus of purpose. And when they moved, the galaxy saw it. On Council Worlds, news outlets erupted. Earth responds to phantom signal beyond the veil. Terran Armada heads to unknown space madness or Messiah. Council declares Earth unhinged and rogue. No one cares. It's on outer colonies. Crowds gathered. They watched the stars. Not in fear, but in awe. Some cried. Some saluted. Some whispered. Go, show them what Deathworlders do. Even former enemies paused. Because what kind of species chased a cry into the void? Only one. The kind that refused to forget. On the 7th day of the fleet's journey, they reached the edge of the veil. What they found was not space. It was ruin. Massive. Structures orbital cities, drifting like skeletons. Burned, torn apart, not by war, by something older, darker. The vow unbroken sent recon drones through a gravity rift shaped like a scar in space. Data streamed back. What they saw was impossible. A planetary system orbiting a black hole butt with cities still lit. Inside those cities, screaming millions, locked in glass towers, surrounded by something. Shifting, not ships, not life, something. Like shadow, folding in and out of dimensions, killing without form, the AI whispered the analysis. We are not looking at war, we are looking at extermination. Riker gave no speech. He simply said, drop the fleet, get those people out. We burn anything that moves against us. The Terran fleet surged forward through distortion, through gravitational trauma. Through reality itself, they launched rescue drops. They cut through barriers of temporal energy. They fought beings with no shape, no language, no fear. And they won. Not because they were stronger, not because they were smarter, but because they were. Humanity does not run from death. It drags the living out of its jaws. They saved 1.3 million beings. No one knew what species they were. They didn't speak. They only wept. One, barely alive, gripped Riker's arm and whispered in broken code, "No one has ever come. No one ever came before." He answered, "We did." And Earth burned a path back through the veil. Carrying the last of a civilization the stars had already forgotten. When they returned, the Council was waiting. Fleet, judges, broadcasts of condemnation. Riker stepped onto the universal channel and spoke 5 words. "You ignored them. We didn't." And then he cut the signal. Behind him, hundreds of rescued ships hovered. Some already painting Earth's emblem beside their own, others saying nothing but following. The message was clear. Earth wasn't building an empire. It was building a legacy. Not of power, but of response, across the galaxy. New beacons lit up on every system touched by the Terran fleet. Not as weapons, not as threats, but as promises. Each one transmitting a single line to deep space. We will never let the stars go silent again.